George Groves versus Denis Douglin, or Douglin, however you want to pronounce his name. Um, this fight, a lot of people view as just a tune-up, rather than it being an actual a significant fight in George Groves' career. Significant because if he loses, he really has got nowhere to go. Um, but what can I tell you about Denis Douglin? The most dangerous thing about Denis Douglin, I would say, is the fact that when he fights with his back against the ropes, he chucks a sneaky right hand over the top, or sneaky left hand. I can't remember if it was Southpaw or Orthodox. It's really late at night, but yeah, that shows how much interest I've got in the fight. To be honest, Douglin did an interview, or Douglin did an interview recently with the Boxing Voice, and in the Boxing Voice, he told the Boxing Voice that he saw George Groves as a stepping stone. He said that he felt George Groves could be outboxed, and he felt that he was more than good enough to outbox George Groves. This is by the man that's been trained by his mother for all of his career since he was an amateur. Apart from this fight now, where I believe he's getting trained by Eddie Mustafa Muhammad. Great. Is that going to help him against George Groves? I don't think it will do. I think Douglin has been knocked out before. I think he's going to get knocked out again. Inside 3 rounds, Douglin said that he felt he was big enough. He felt that he walks from 180 pounds. Okay, he started his career as a light middle. If you look at George Groves, he's a big super middle. I believe he could fight a light heavy. And although Douglin said he walks around at 100, he's a big man. He's 180 pounds usually. He was sick and all the rest of it, but people didn't know about that. And the reason he lost his fights is because this, that, and the other. People don't know why he lost his fights. I'll tell you one thing. He's going to know from the first bell, as soon as George catches him with the right hand. And he has a tendency to lose concentration and get caught with the right hand. I do believe Douglin's a southpaw from what I remembered. He's open to the right hand punch, and that is George Groves' best punch. So this guy is tailor-made for George Groves. As for George Groves, since the 2 knockout defeats to Carl Froch, he's come back. He fought against Rebrasse. I wasn't impressed by the Rebrasse performance, to be honest. It was a decent performance. I wouldn't call it a world-class performance. I'd call it a decent performance. I got slated on Twitter for saying I thought it was only a decent performance. Well, it is. When you're thinking about the fact that this guy may go on and challenge the fights of Durrell, or even Arthur Abraham, as faded as he is, you know, I still have serious question marks about George Groves. His chin, he got knocked clean out, spark out. I needed oxygen afterwards, after he got knocked out by Carl Froch. Carl Froch knocks nobody out at world level like that. I don't care if you said that was his best punch ever. He knocks nobody out at world level like that. You tell me one other fighter he's fought in the top 10 that he's knocked out like that. Yes, he stopped Jermaine Taylor. By that point, everyone was stopping Jermaine Taylor. Well, who else he stopped? He got stopped. He stopped Mac, but he didn't stop Mac like that. Yves Boutte, who's known to have a weak chin, he even stopped Boutte like that. So, so for me, yeah, I don't rate Groves' chin. His stamina is questionable, and this isn't slating George Groves, because I actually like George Groves. I think he brings a lot of excitement to boxing. I think love his ring walks. He's always about business. I do like that about George Groves. He's got that sort of, you know, you beat me twice, but I'm sure I can still beat you. He's even got it there. He's still got that confidence in him. Yeah, you beat me twice, Carl, but I'll still come back for you again. I'm slightly deluded because I don't believe he'll ever beat Carl Froch. I think Carl Froch is too much of a man for him. And I said in the 2 fights, I said that I believed Adam Booth was the missing ingredient in the 2 fights against Carl Froch. I really do. And Paddy Fitzpatrick has now, again, no disrespect to Paddy Fitzpatrick, but it seems that since Booth has gone, Groves is holding his feet more. Groves is more upright, whereas Paddy had Adam had him sort of moving, and Adam was like the captain of the ship. He kind of knew where he was going, and captain of the sniper ship, and that was great. But now George Groves has got Paddy Fitzpatrick I'm not sure if anybody knows what Paddy Fitzpatrick's style is or what he's about, but you can tell by the two fights, especially the second fight, he looked slower, he looked more open, and you saw he got knocked out by Carl Froch. So Groves, when he's in a tough fight, seems to tire around round 6 to 8 rounds. He seems to tire. I don't think that's going to be a problem against Douglin, but I do think if you're thinking about him being a world-class fighter, I still think, and I'm not trying to be wise after the event, I said I felt that the fight came too soon for George Groves against Carl Froch. And you can say all you want about him being world-class, but he never won any of those fights. He never won any of those fights. He's lost to for the world title twice, let's remember. And has lost the world title twice. Two world title challenges. And both occasions his stamina was left wanting. And both occasions his chin let him down. And significantly in the second fight. So when the going gets tough, is George Groves tough enough to tough it out? That's the question. Denis Douglin should not be answering those questions. Should not be asking those questions. And if he is, then there's more being taken out of George Groves than is led to be believed. I do believe that Groves was in 2 tough fights against Carl Froch, and I do believe that his arch enemy or his nemesis, James DeGale, on the other hand, I think he's getting better. I think James DeGale will go on and win a world title faster than George Groves. I really do. I think DeGale's a better fighter and he's progressing as a better fighter. You can always point to the fact that DeGale got beat by George Groves in that particular fight. But I felt that DeGale won it by a round or 2. You know, but let's be honest, DeGale, he was the one that promoted that fight. He was the one that made that fight. Everybody like slammed DeGale for what he was saying, but he made you want to tune in. Whether you want to see him get knocked out or you want to see him win the fight, he made you tune in. It wasn't George Groves. And, you know, and it's quite interesting because the scenario flipped when George Groves was now fighting Carl Froch. It was George Groves trying to be the vocal one. So, you know, and I believe that that didn't work in DeGale's favour. And I believe that, you know, that politically they had it in for DeGale. And I believe that when the fight went to the scorecards, as close as the fight was, I believe that it would have been pushed towards more Groves' favour. Groves, again, won the European title after DeGale won the European title. And if I'm right, I think DeGale was British champion first. I'm not sure. You'd have to check. Don't quote me on that. But my point is this. I don't know how much George Groves has got left. The Rebrassi fight, which he came back at again, didn't think he looked great. He's not looking as mobile. He's not looking as slick. He didn't look slick then. Maybe it's because he's come off a knockout defeat. The one thing I'll give George Groves credit for, even though he's been knocked out, he's come back and he's coming back and he's coming back and he's saying, yeah, doesn't matter, I'm going to come back, I'm going to do this. I'm going to come back. But are you coming back and learning from your mistakes? That's the question. And honestly, can you honestly look me in the eye and tell me that Denis Douglin is the proper preparation necessary to fight Dirrell? Right. Let's think this out a second. George Groves got a first world title fight against Carl Froch. What was his preparation? He gets the second fight, obviously against Carl Froch. His preparation was the first fight against Carl Froch. He didn't do any better. In fact, did worse. Now, he's trying to chase a fight with Dirrell. He needs to fight somebody significant. And you can't tell me Rebrassi was somebody significant to prepare him for a world title shot. I would like to see George Groves in with Arthur Abraham, Sakio Biko. They're 2 guys I'd like to see him in. You can say what you want of Arthur Abrams being old. He's still getting in the ring with someone like even Paul Smith has gotten in the ring with him. You know what I mean? And Paul Smith did well. And that would be in some ways an easier fight for someone like Groves because he's got the speed and he's got some movement. Against someone like Arthur Abrams, I think that fight's good until Arthur Abrams hits him on the chin. Arthur Abrams is a tough man. So you know, if Abrams can tough out the big bombs from Groves, and he can close the range down, it's still an interesting fight because that chin after rounds 7 and 8, and Abraham is still there. There's always a chance Abraham can still beat him. So this stuff about George Groves being world class, I just think that he's been put up there, but I'm not quite sure if he's world class. I'd love him to prove me wrong because he's a fighter I like, but I'm not so sold on George Groves yet. No, I'm not. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I expect Groves to hit Douglin, the mummy's boy, with the right hand within first and second round, and the fight within 3 rounds, the fight being over. This guy's going to get destroyed. And yes, it will make George Groves look good, but if that's a world title eliminator, I don't think it is. But if it is one of these Eddie specials, then I don't know. You're paying $19.95 to watch George Groves do that. Yeah, it's nice to see George Groves fight, but not against this guy. But there you go. Keep busy fight. That's all it is. If George Groves were to lose this fight, then I you know, some serious reservations would have to be about Paddy Fitzpatrick as a trainer. I still have my reservations about him as a trainer at the moment. I would like to see what George Groves would have looked like had Adam Booth not trained him at all. It'd be interesting to see what Paddy Fitzpatrick would be like as a trainer. You know, we'll see. Maybe I'm wrong about this whole Paddy Fitzpatrick thing. And I can't make a judgment I can only make a judgment call from what I see. And from what I see, George Groves has gone backwards as a fighter, not forwards. There's no progression. You want to see a progression in a young fighter's life, career. And is it progression because the trainer doesn't know how to take him to the next level? Is it progression because he's been listening to the wrong people in his ears? Is it progression, lack of progression because the fights against Froch has taken something out of him? Or is it something else? I just don't see, you want to see him get better and learn from his mistakes, and I'm not sure if he has done. And we're not going to find that out against Denis Douglin. So those are my thoughts on the fight. Let me know what you think. I might be a bit too harsh on George Groves here, but I just don't like the idea. I've had my heart broken too many times with British fighters. Oh, he's world class. He's world class, and Sky will be the first to tell you it's a world class performance. They're the first to tell you that their fighter on their channel is world class, without them fighting these people who you never heard of or not worthy of you turning on, just flick your channel over to watch them fight. So it'll be a blowout anyway. I guess that's worth $14.95 or $19.95. I said enough. Thanks for watching. Take care. I'm out.